you check the children. Show a little massive
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better. You're gonna need a bigger boat.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the horror show. I'm Cecil, Laird.
Fuego here.
Rolo.
Back for another edition of Christmas in Hell, and for this one, this is actually going to be the first novel that's going to be covered on the channel because this came out in 2009.
Correct.
Which was about 6 years before the Scarlet Gospels, which was 1 year before the Sherlock Holmes book. So getting it all done essentially in order. So today we're talking about Hellbound Hearts. Or that one.
Yes, exactly.
Same book.
I just have it here for consultation purposes, okay?
Yes. So, guys, it's not like a canon Hellraiser book, although it kind of is, but it kind of isn't. What it is it's an anthology written by many different people. Or all the stories inside, there's 21 different stories, all written by different people. Does Clive actually have any?
No, Clive does not. He
Clive
just
does not,
introduces
no.
it. Yep.
So, and then it is wrapped up by Doug Bradley with a little afterwards. So, but it is written by some interesting people, including, like you said, Robert, the Sister Silas was written by who?
I couldn't even.
No,
say.
but the actress, right?
Oh no, that was
Yeah,
Fuego.
that was-
Was that Fuego?
Yeah, that wasn't Fuego.
But
But no, that was actually the actress that played one of the Cenobites. I think is one of the original.
Sorry,
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
misattributed.
No. It was done by Barbie Wilde. She actually played the female Cenobite, with the stuff through her lips, and so she wrote her own origin story basically in this. There was another actor from the films, Nicholas Vince, I believe. He also played a Cenobite, and then you've got some bigger names like McGarris, Richard Christian Matheson, Neil Gaiman. There's another Kelly Armstrong, who was a New York Times best-selling author. So I mean, there's a lot of upper echelon talent involved with this, but as with any anthology, I mean, it's a little hit and miss as far as quality goes. So
Exactly. So our overall thoughts is what we're going to tackle first. Then we'll talk a little bit about the stories and then the actual way they are told, since that's a lot of what we can talk about with regards to writing goes instead of film. Can't break it down quite the normal way. But overall on this, I feel like it falls into the category of a lot of different anthologies. To me, only about half the stories are really worth your time, and only about half of that half is really, really awesome to me. So I actually broke it down numbers-wise. Out of the 21, I had 5 that were okay, and I had 6 that were really good stories. The remaining 10, I could have skipped entirely and would have been absolutely fine with it. So I guess that breaks down my overall thoughts better than anything else can. So yeah, I think about half the book is worth your time, and about half of that is really exceptional.
okay, after having just read those anthology comics from the late 80s and early 90s, I found it to be a similar sort of I found merit in all of them, but yeah, there weren't really any aside from the Richard Christian Matheson one, Bulimia, that I thought pretty much sucked. Aside from that, I enjoyed all of them well enough, and they all just tied in with the lore close enough, others more so than others. I mean, as far as mention of Cenobites and the Order of the Gash and stuff like that. So I found things to enjoy in just about all of them, but there's really, similar to what you said, there's only a couple like the Steve Niles and what's her name, Kelly Armstrong's, and a couple others that I thought were actually memorable and did something unique, whether it was the language or the setup or whatever. So, how about you, man?
It basically is going to be a little bit kind of an echo between both of these guys. And no, honestly, I liked it, but I didn't love it. And there was maybe even on the list I had written down is about 5 stories out of this entire book that I felt fit what the anthology of the Hellraiser universe was supposed to be. The rest of them just were kind of cherry picking. They didn't really feel like they were a part of that universe, especially the one Fuego mentioned. I even told Cecil about this a couple weeks back, that Bulimia story.
2 pages.
Made the 2 pages and was literally had nothing to do at all with anything Hellraiser whatsoever. I still am trying to figure out what gave them the reason to put that in that fucking book.
I think there's a small S&M mention that's one line maybe that could barely connect it to anything Hellraiser related.
See, even that, I don't know. I just that was the one story that really didn't do anything for me. But even again, going back to kind of echoing, it falls into that whole anthology kind of issue. You're gonna have more story, like some stories that are gonna be good, and more so that are not gonna really come up to par. And this is where that one overall fell into.
Mm-hmm. So story-wise, again, there's 21 of them, so kind of breeze through them if we can. So Prisoners of the Inferno was the very beginning. I like that one too. It's about a man that is a collector of old Hollywood items, and he learns of a film, or at least a cut of a film, that is supposedly, it's myth, but it exists, and it got lost to time, and he's trying to track it down. Eventually, he does track it down, and it leads to a gateway to hell itself. And I thought that was an enjoyable story.
Yeah. It was actually done by a screenwriter too.
Yeah, and
it's Peter Atkins. Yeah.
It was it was a decent story and everything, but at the same time, that premise has been so overdone. Between everything, and like what coming to mind is a Norman Reedus movie, Cigarette Burns.
I was going to say that as well. And it totally felt like that.
Yeah, that's basically where
Masters of Horror, McGarren.
Yeah. Oh wait, that was his movie.
It wasn't
his
movie.
Story.
Well, it was his series that he
okay.
for Showtime.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Man, that was a good series though.
It was great, man.
That was a good series. But yeah, Cigarette Burns is basically kind of or this story is what Cigarette Burns kind of feels like.
Yeah, it's basically a story about. Cenobites being filmed torturing people, and how there's this lost film out there that's about that.
In a sense, it's a snuff film.
Yeah, big time.
Big time. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was a stronger one. So
then we got to The Cold, which I couldn't get through.
One at all.
I couldn't get through it. Nope.
Yeah, it's like a almost noir procedural sort of thing where this guy is investigating some murders, presumably possibly by Cenobite stuff, and there's like recollections of a girl that he had seen years before, and he's out investigating in the cold, and he gets invited into this house, and it just kind of you can probably tell where it's going to go from there. It's relatively predictable, and the language was tough to follow.
It was the telling of the story that was the bear for me. I tried 3 times to get through this story, and I just couldn't because of the way it was told.
It's almost like he was trying to mimic like how Bram Stoker told Dracula through the diary notes, but at the same time, a couple scenes were in the real time aspect, but it just wasn't.
It didn't
executed
gel.
very well. No.
I think the first couple lines say it all. December sleet, shoot hill, 6 a.m, temperature dropping. Jesus wept. The things we do. Yeah,
it's
that.
Yeah, it's just the worst. The Confessor's Tale. The Confessor's Tale is next. Again, I'm not going to remember them all just from the title.
That one I enjoyed. That's one about this kid who is basically like almost an indentured servant. He has his tongue cut out,
that was
either by his mother or by like an animal of some sort. And all these people come to him to say these horrible atrocities that they've committed, and then in turn like die immediately afterwards.
It's the speak no evil kind of thing.
Yeah. I thought that one was able to be done without. Hellbound Hollywood, which was the Mick Garris story, I was disappointed. Like, it had the setup, again, the whole making of a movie, behind the scenes kind of thing. It had that setup, but ultimately it was a uninteresting, failed story to me.
Yeah, this is the one where the location that he's going to scout, and he's like a very prominent writer-director that has fallen from grace and is trying to like break back in, but he's location scouting at 55 Ludovico Street, so he's basically at the same home where Hellbound Heart took place, and then he has an experience all his own there. Do you remember this one?
Vaguely, and everything. I'm not gonna bullshit, guys. It's been a minute since I finished this book and everything. Kind of just been waiting for all of us to get this finished.
Up in the attic, he basically encounters a vagina-faced Cenobite, and it gets really wacky from there. Yeah, and the whole film crew shows up afterwards, and
Mechanisms was the next one, and this one was by Kristopher Golden and Mike Mignola. And from those of you that don't know, Mignola is the one that created Hellboy, and Kristopher Golden is the one that kind of splintered off, if I'm not mistaken, and started making the BPRD series. That was the one that was all about Abe Sapien and the whole Hellboy's team, as it were. So they worked together to put together this Mechanisms story, which, again, I was trying. There's a little bit of art in there from Mignola himself, and it didn't deliver on, like, it was a premise about there was a man that dies, and he has an invention or whatever left behind, and no one knows what it is.
Yeah, it's basically this kid coming home from university in Oxford because his father has disappeared, finds out that his father has made this weird mechanism, and he was like possibly hearing his dead wife / this kid's mother, and it's just the growing obsessiveness from there. It was very mediocre, honestly, just like a lot of the stories.
Unfortunately so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then Every Wrong Turn by Tim Levin. Which one was that one, Fuego? That might have been one of the early ones. Oh, no. The next one is the first one that I really liked. But
okay, this is the one where the guy is wandering in the labyrinth and he's dead and he's remembering all of the different sins that he's done
that brought him there.
Oh,
he's marching into hell for the first time.
Yeah, how do you remember this?
Yeah,
one?
how he raped his wife when she was drunk on like one of their first dates, and then he went on to marry her like 4 years later. But the fact that she thinks the first time they ever had sex was, you know, something she recalled, and he actually took her stumbling out to the park and raped her is really, and that's just one of many things. Abusing his younger daughter, you know, violently hitting her and stuff like that. So he's basically going through this labyrinth of sorts, trying to get some sort of fulfillment or whatever. So he's obviously in hell, or, you know, some layer, some level of it, whatever. But it was okay. It was another one of those that tied in a little more directly to the Hellraiser mythology, but just, I don't know, the internal monologue of this guy, I just didn't really, it wasn't that fascinating to me.
Yeah.
So
no, but I will say, like, it in a sense, it was satisfying for like where he was at, just because of all the shitty things he's done.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So that self-reflection of, holy shit, like again, just that self-reflection of going back through everything that he's done, and like, I don't know, there was merits with that story, but at the same time, it wasn't. No, it was pretty slow.
And
it was one I sloughed off.
Yeah, and there's a weird like tree Cenobite kind of creature that he encounters when he gets to the very center.
Right,
That's
been waiting for him.
Exactly, yeah. But I mean, as a whole, okay, purgatory, the cyclical cycle of going back through all your evil shizzle you've done. But this was another one not too memorable for me.
The next one was the first one that really rang home for me. Again, there were 6 that I thought were really genuinely awesome. This one's called The Collector.
Yep.
This is about a woman that starts off following her as she's following clues to this online puzzle, where it's a company that's put together an online puzzle seemingly as a promotion, and it's like a daily thing. You solve one puzzle, you have to wait a certain amount of time, come back and solve the next one, and the people that progress far enough have caught the eye of this corporation, and she's the only one that's gotten as far as she has. She's brought in to solve an in-person puzzle, aka a lament configuration.
Exactly.
And when she arrives, like, the lady that's there is like waiting for her to solve it, and she's like, well, wait, aren't we supposed to wear the cameras and everything if this is for a prize and everything?
Yeah, where's
and the lady's like, just solve it or whatever. And essentially, you know, it turns into a thing where this main character we've been following is actually a lot smarter than we initially gave her credit for. Not that she was dumb, it's just that she's got much deeper plans as the story progresses than we could have imagined. And it turns out that she is a collector of lament configurations. And again, I think there's certain things that are definitely worth not spoiling, so you guys can experience it for yourselves.
It was one of the
I think this is one of those.
This was actually one of the ones I had written on the list of the more memorable stories, just because it felt more of that Hellraiser universe. It felt original in its source material to a point, and everything, but it still was going and playing onto the whole Hellworld aspect.
That's exactly what it reminded me of.
Like the whole gameplay online, and then then you get brought in person to solve it for this big corporation.
Yeah, which was the one with Henriksen, right? The last one
Yes.
that had Bradley. Okay.
Yeah, and Henrikaville and shit like that.
Yeah.
The next one is these guys' favorites, and that's one called Bulimia.
Yeah.
So this
Not
was
memorable.
this was very fast. Also, might have been the shortest story.
It is 100%.
There's literally-
the shortest
it's all
race.
about it.
It's a page and a half.
All it is, it's about a chick in the bathroom throwing up, and her reflections of her body image, and the fact of she basically has, again, it's bulimia.
Yeah.
You eat, you can throw up 15 minutes later and everything, because and I'm not knocking on people and everything that have this condition and everything, because I've seen people with it.
I actually dated a girl with it.
Yeah, it's a legit it's a legit mental thing and everything like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. You
But
have
it
to
doesn't
hear
make for a good Hellraiser.
no, it
Yeah,
doesn't.
not
That's
at all,
one
not
of
at all.
that's where I'm going back to earlier when I was saying it makes no damn sense why it's in this book.
I have to just say the first couple lines real quick. I stare over water, a tomb, fingernails press soft locks that guard throat, stomach needs, surrenders. Yeah, it's that sort of thing. Richard Christian Matheson, the son of Richard Matheson, who wrote so much just big time stuff. Whether I mean, I Am Legend, which was made into that Will Smith movie,
Oh,
and
yeah.
had various other iterations like the Omega Man and stuff. He also wrote Terror at 20,000 feet or what. I mean, the guy is a
Mega Man was
yeah,
so good.
yeah.
Watched
He
that
is
in a
the
long
son,
time.
the Charlton Heston one. But yeah, Richard Christian Matheson is the son of Richard Matheson. But I didn't like that story. Yeah.
The second, the next one is the second one I felt of my 6 that were worth the time. This is Orfeo of the Damned. Yes.
This one was pretty messed up.
Yeah,
like,
it's
in the aftermath of it.
disturbing. It's about a girl that is in a relationship and
Married,
is
yeah.
tempted. Yeah, she's married and she's tempted by a friend of hers that is, the cool guy that doesn't have any money, but he doesn't care because he has life figured out.
Well,
you
he's
know
her
what I mean?
gay dancer friend, so it's not like
Not
a
gay.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, he's gay.
Is he gay?
Yeah, he's gay.
I got the impression she was.
No, 100%.
Really?
She even
I got the
mentions-
impression she was into him, though.
I just read this yesterday. She mentions at one particular point that he.
Well, he's
couldn't-
read it a lot fresher than we have.
Fair
so-
enough. I
he
yield.
couldn't be a lover because he's gay.
But she was into him like that.
She
though.
has like that connection where she wishes
She
it
wanted-
could be more.
Okay,
because
that's
he's
fair.
such a
That's
free
fair.
spirit
Okay,
and whatever.
fair
But
But yeah, nonetheless, she cannot get satiated with what she's got, so she starts to crave more, and she finds a lament configuration, right?
he gives it.
Oh,
to her.
he gives it to her.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah. Danae, whatever. Dan, basically, her gay friend gives it to her. So.
Yeah, and so she summons a Cenobite, and go ahead, Fuego, continue from there.
Basically just
That's
asks
Robert,
for
yeah.
unworldly pleasures.
Mhm.
That's really the short and sweet of that one.
And she gets it for a long time.
Oh, she gets it.
But then he comes to, and honestly, this is one where I legitimately felt kind of bad for her well-meaning dude.
Well, again,
because he comes to try to
'cause
rescue her.
Well, because
and-
time works
yeah.
differently, right?
Yeah.
In hell, millennia have passed,
But-
or centuries have passed for
Yeah,
her.
but she's been killed and pieced back together and ripped apart
But the
over and
cool
over
thing,
again.
though, like again, going with the story, because it again plays back on that whole mental health aspect of like the sexual desires.
Yeah.
And that's what was nicely written in the
Because she
story.
feels so unfulfilled.
Exactly.
Mhm.
The lack of satisfaction,
Mhm.
and once she finally gets it, does she really have it?
But
Yeah.
but the twist of what the Cenobite
For
decides
what-
to do
exactly.
as far as the suffering,
Very
it's
on
like
brand.
this would be even more suffering
Uh-huh.
for this to happen without spoiling it, as opposed to staying here.
Yeah.
Basically.
So you'd think it might be the super mega happy ending, but
Yeah,
not
no, it was a
quite.
great twist. I thought it was awesome.
The next story is Our Lord of Quarters by Simon Clark.
Yeah.
I
This was
didn't
the-
really get down with this one that much.
Yeah, this was the period piece one, Constantinople 1401,
Yeah.
where the kid is
honestly,
basically like
It was
like
kind
there's
of
a
a
whole
creature, right?
Well, it's the one where this general has
It's a
captured a
different
Cenobite, and basically the Cenobite is negotiating with the Emperor to give
Yo,
to
that
basically,
one,
yeah,
that
to
one,
basically
that's right.
turn the
Yes.
tables and like give some sort of rejuvenation to this
Right.
dying, just
I do remember that one now.
epicenter of commerce or whatever. The Byzantines are fighting. Their catapults are coming, and this kid basically steals the heart piece or whatever from the Cenobite and runs away from it. And the Cenobite flies and comes after him, and then he ends up jumping on a catapult and escaping. It's cool.
Yeah, I vaguely
for-
remember that.
yeah,
That's
it's
been a
cool
minute.
as a period piece, I guess, and you get some actual like just injection of history into this. But I don't know, it felt kind of anticlimactic, and like the sacrifice that happens without spoiling doesn't really feel like it's gonna matter that much. So anyway.
The next one is Wordsworth, which is the Neil Gaiman and Dave McKean collaboration, which is actually also
We'll
in the
focus on it in
Hellraiser
the other one.
Masterpieces.
Dude, I didn't
trades.
like it.
I
all.
didn't like it
It's
in
just
this,
very
in the
vague.
black and white, blurry version, but I liked it better in the
I
comics.
honestly didn't like it. I didn't really care for it either, personally.
enough.
Like, it was
I think it's a lot worse in this version because
Mhm.
there is some vibrance to McKean's coloring and stuff like
Well,
that.
don't get me wrong, like,
the art is beautiful,
yeah.
and being black and white, it just gives it kind of a disservice.
But
So.
even still, with like, it's just maybe it's just like the story structure and how it was worded, because it was
There's not really much.
It's still
was-
not that
it was
cohesive,
it was playing off of poetry.
Mhm.
That's basically almost how it was
Well,
written.
it was a crossword that led to hell,
Mhm.
because he was a crossword. It was doing crossword puzzle.
That's what it was.
So I like that the puzzle that led to hell, the lament configuration, was a crossword puzzle instead
Yeah.
of a regular puzzle. So I thought that was cool.
It gets
but
top
it just didn't
billing.
deliver. Yeah.
It gets top billing on the back of this book. That's
Yeah.
why they
But
reprinted
I think
it.
also, I think one of the biggest issues I had with it, and it was going even back with the comics, it just goes back to really the artwork.
Yeah.
And it was just like, and I like Neil Gaiman's artwork, and then things
McKean's,
like that.
you mean?
Or McKean.
Yeah.
Oh, this way, yeah. Sorry,
And
this was
there's
McKean's. Yeah.
and there's actually the graphic short story script, which is a bonus bit that they put in the back. I find that in some ways a little more readable, personally.
Now, the next one is
one of my
the
favorites.
third that I thought was worthwhile, A Little Piece of Hell by Steve Niles.
This one's good, man.
Go ahead, Fuego. What's this one about?
Yeah, so this is one about these two like would-be kind of like crooks, so to speak, in LA. Thieves, drug addicts, and they find out that somebody who found a lament configuration like in the alley, and then they sell it to this pawn shop guy for like next to nothing, and then a horror film producer who makes really schlocky like torture porn sort of shit comes and buys it for like $11,000, something insane like that. And so these two would-be hoodlums are like, okay, we need to actually go break into said producer's place and try to steal it. And they get there, and the carnage has already transpired.
Yeah, there's blood everywhere and like
hanging
viscera
from the ceilings and
it's just their aftermath. And so one guy's like, let's get out of here. The other guy's like, no, let's press on.
He picks up the box and starts messing with it while the other guy goes down into the torture dungeon.
He was under the influence of the box.
Yeah.
You know, obviously.
But our main guy wants to go, and he goes to the
guy
vault.
telling the story,
And when he
like
comes
a
back
torture
out,
dungeon.
he sees that the other guy has opened the box and the Cenobites have appeared, and they're basically starting to torture him, and he's just like,
they're ripping him.
They're like, do you want to join? And he's just like, no.
But then he's given a different type of torment because obviously he's at this crime scene when the alarm sounds and there's drugs and there's pieces
Dead
of
body,
people
viscera, and everything.
all this stuff. What is Steve Niles? He's a comic writer, right?
He created 30 Days of Night.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
This
was
was
the vampire story.
This one was one of my absolute favorites, man. This one was
he's done a ton of stuff. The 30 Days of Night, he's done a ton of series there. I
recognize his
Giant Monster. He's done Cal McDonald mysteries. He's done a ton of stuff. He's a very big horror pulp guy in the comic universe. And so this is very much a pulp story in the Hellraiser universe, and damn did I love it. It was really good. Steve Niles is quality.
Yeah, and also the language. It flowed so well compared to some of the other writing in this.
I have one other novel
very
of his.
stilted, and I was just like, this is kind of a slog. This was not. With a lot of the other writers, it was.
His writing is very distinctive. I have another novel that is a Cal McDonald mystery that I got along with some of the Walking Dead novels, and it just reads really crisply. He writes so engagingly. It's easy to get through his stuff.
Even the way he hooks you right away in the first couple lines. I know bad people when I see them, and Gordon Fuller was a world-class evil scumbag son of a bitch. He also happened to be my best friend. Funny how things work out. It just I was hooked right away with just the language and just the very just rashness of it and stuff.
He's a great writer.
Really good.
The next one is the Dark Materials Project by Sarah Langan, and this one I could have done without, except for the overall idea, where it's about a guy that is working on, like, he's really intelligent, working on big process things, and it turns out that Stanford scientists have figured out a way to open a black hole, and it is eating California while this story is going on.
I thought this one was really dope, man. With the
I
dark
didn't get
matter,
into it, but go ahead.
With the dark matter and the shadow DNA and all that different stuff, there was a lot of. I almost felt like I was reading Crichton at times because it really delved into like the double helixes and all this stuff that I really don't know much shit about. But I found it fascinating nonetheless. It was one that I wanted Catherine to read because she's much more of that like scientific mind than me. But he also has like a pregnant wife who leaves him, and so there was a humanistic aspect to it. I really enjoyed this one actually, and the fact that they're trying to solve this. It's like 500 million plus different pieces they're trying to all line up in these different computer programs. There's a whole fleet of people in Massachusetts working on it. It wasn't super horror. This was way more of the science fiction variety, in my estimation, that some may be turned off by it.
Yeah, and then like personally, it felt more like something like it should be something like a Ray Bradbury collective thing.
Totally feel
that's
there.
where this felt more on, or like a Philadelphia Experiment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like this that was another one of the stories that just didn't feel that it fit or belonged in this book.
And the whole thing feels very much like, okay, you're opening this portal to hell or whatever. That's what the black hole was kind of signifying, another dimension sucking things up. I don't know, but it was
another
kind of
dimension.
Yeah, Another dimension.
Thank you.
Another dimension.
Thank you. All right, I'm glad we all ended on the same page there. All right, sweet.
We're that old.
Ouch.
Yeah, he's not wrong.
Like a pinch on
Dude,
the neck
I remember
from
watching
Mr.
that
Spock.
shit on VH1, the music video when it
a great
aired.
video.
Like, that was dope.
All right, we got to start cruising.
Yeah,
Though.
I
So
know.
the next one is
Yeah.
Demons Designed by Nicholas Vince. The long and short of that one, Fuego, I can't remember off the top of my head.
I'm trying to remember. No,
Good,
not going.
sweet.
Okay.
Next.
This is no. This is the one where So there's these two gay lovers, and the younger one, his father, has this big, gallery sort of, showing that he's going to do, and they get there and they find out that, yeah, exactly, and it's almost like he's constructed like a huge, like 60
a 13
foot.
ghosts like mansion.
Yeah.
That basically people can go into and look at, but then he activates it, and in and of itself, it is a lament configuration that shifts and just starts killing everyone inside.
Yeah, because he invited all these special peeps in there, and it's like a masquerade sort of thing, and so they're all costumed, or, either like dinner attire, or they're in like whips and chains and all that different shit. And
party.
Yeah, and the one and the older guy who was the lover of the younger dude whose father is actually presenting this crazy situation, he's like trying to beat the hell out of there as quickly as he can, and yeah, that's about the long and short of it. This one wasn't incredibly memorable, but I did like how it definitely seemed to tie a little bit closer to the mythology than some of the other stories.
Okay.
So
next was Only the Blind Survive by Yvonne Navarro.
Yeah, this is one that gave me vibes of the Native American stuff from the anthology comics, where you explored that sort of history in the first volume of
the egg
and like finding those portals on the reservation down into the underworld. And so this guy who's about to get married.
Oh, this was the creature one.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
So they inadvertently unleash this creature, and his would-be wife, the one that he's going to marry in like 5 days or something, is like, those are the old ways, that's all legends and blah, 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 and it's not real. And then she comes and the creature attacks her, because the whole blind aspect of it is that they're like, if you don't look at the creature can't look at you. And so him and his brothers and his father go and try to kill this creature. I dug it, honestly. This is one that I would have actually really liked to have seen as a comic book in those anthologies, which would have been pretty sweet.
I think this would have worked a little bit better than what we actually got for the comic adaptation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it would have been cool.
4 or 5
Well, it's like a cactus creature. Like, it's got spines all over
and
and
it's
stuff.
got like cactus skin
cool,
and everything.
Well,
yeah.
you guys watched Feast, obviously.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Oh,
so it was almost like kind of had that picture.
True. Fair enough. Next up is Mother's Ruin by Mark Morris.
Yeah, this is the one about the guy who's working at the library, and the old woman comes with the occult books that are like 40 years past due, and the whole twist is the connection that he has to those two people as he goes, like he basically finds this card that has like a website, and he goes onto the website, and there's all kinds of like dark web, S&M, really violent torture, sex sort of shit, and he sees an address in the final picture, and then it disappears, and he's trying to write it down all quickly. He has somebody take him to this weird abandoned warehouse location, and they're these like crazy S&M naked Cenobite sort of women. They torture him extensively, and then the reveal, without spoiling, is why he's there and how he was kind of set up to get there. This one, I actually liked.
That one.
This one I liked.
I think that was one of them I just kind of got bored and might have just kind of glossed through a little bit.
I read all these motherfuckers!
Honestly, like, it was getting down to the wire, so I'm like, I didn't have as much crunch time to get all
I
these.
just finished the last one this morning before driving over here.
So we have 5 left. We're going to power through. The next 3 are the last 3 of my 6 that I thought were all great.
Okay.
And this was the one, Barbie Wilde, who actually played the female Cenobite in 2 and 1 and 2? I'm trying to remember.
1 and 2,
I think it was 1 and 2.
1 and
because
2,
it was
yeah.
the only.
She's in the thumbnail of our Hellraiser 2 review.
Other than that, or other than the comics, I don't think they ever brought her back for any of the other ones.
Sister Silas.
Yeah.
So this is the origin story of her. She used to be a nun that had a lot of repressed urges that started to satisfy them all by her lonesome, and eventually summons Cenobites in order to satisfy them further, and eventually is turned into one as well, without spoiling the details of the story, because I think that's where the fun of this story is. I thought it was disturbing yet good.
Yeah, same, and it had that little religious slant that it's always interesting where, since people are so repressed, they often want to just really lash out and get crazy, no pun intended, and that's kind of what we get here. And I thought it was really cool that this actress got to actually write her own backstory.
Well,
I thought that was dope.
Well, and that's the thing too, because what came out 81 or whatever. So she had all this time basically.
Oh, excuse me, 87.
87.
The first one was 87?
First film was 87.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay.
But
Fair
either
enough.
way,
Back to the correction.
you've had all these years to basically marinate like your own origin story of the character that you're known for playing.
And her writing is pretty damn good too.
Yeah.
It flowed.
So,
it was great linguistically.
You can definitely tell, like she definitely took time in thinking about the backstory of what she used to be in a sense.
Yeah, and the transition. It was fascinating.
The next one is Santos del
Yeah,
Inferno,
you really like this
which
one.
is Jeffrey J. Marriott.
Which one was this again?
And this is the one that actually starts off in a very Pet Sematary-like way, where there is a guy expecting his family to come home, and he sees a neighbor about to cross the street with a baby as a truck is barreling down the road, and he tries to step out to stop it, and as a result of him waving the truck out of the way of the old woman and the baby, the truck veers then and smashes into his family's car,
His wife and
killing
daughter.
his wife and daughter.
Yeah.
And so he is left, with no family, and
Drinks
a
himself
year
to
drinks
death,
himself into
basically.
oblivion.
Yeah.
A year later, the
Nicolas
guy that was
Cage.
driving the truck shows up and says he wants to help him get his life back on track.
Yeah, Lenny or
and then he
whatever.
starts to tell him, like he realizes at one point when he takes him to a whorehouse in Mexico, that the guy actually finally has a reaction, an emotional reaction after all this time. And he's like, okay, look, I can help you even more. There's all these things we call santoses, which are basically depraved
Saints, yeah.
paintings of saints. That when you gather all the Santos paintings together,
7 of them. Yeah.
it can be a gateway to pleasure forever. And so he goes out and starts collecting all of these paintings, and when he assembles them finally after collecting them, doing dirty things to get them.
Oh yeah, death in some cases. Yeah, murder, I should say.
And the Cenobites are summoned, and I won't spoil what happens.
It's one in particular, and there's an
Right.
interesting connection with where this Lenny guy grew up without spoiling things, and there's kind of a role reversal that transpires. And yeah, this was dark and disturbing, and obviously I like the very gothic, baroque, almost sort of religious connection once again here.
Yeah, I liked it a lot too. Very, very, East LA.
Although it takes place in New Mexico.
I know,
yeah.
but that
I
culture.
feel you. I feel you. Yeah.
The next one is The Promise by Nancy Kilpatrick.
This one was awesome.
This one might have been my favorite in the book, honestly, in
Got
retrospect.
kids coming back together, man.
Yes, so it's basically a group of people that have regathered. They were a goth group of kids during high school, and they have now regathered 20 years later
13 of them.
for an event, and they basically show up to this graveyard in the specific mausoleum where they go inside, plus one extra person, like one of the dudes has brought his girlfriend.
Candy.
And they go inside,
Candy makes
and
you
one of the
candy.
guys summons Cenobites with a stone puzzle, essentially. And the Cenobites show up, and the guy basically tries to give him the girl that he's brought, and it turns out that this group has had a run-in with this Cenobite group before.
And it's even called the Le Marchand Crypt that they're at. So obvious connection right there.
So this group of people have to face the consequences and give up one of their number or more, depending. Again, I don't want to spoil what happens with the rest of the story, but this was just an excellent Hellraiser story, for sure.
Do you remember this one?
I do not.
Oh, this one was
more like I'm
great,
gonna
dude.
snag that book again and go back through like the last couple ones.
I'm
Yeah.
actually
like
really
that.
glad that I read this because, I mean, while there's some weaker entries, like the ones that are solid, this one included, are very fun Hellraiser stories. I
Easy
mean,
to consider full Hellraiser lore, even without
Yeah.
the Pinhead aspect.
yeah, or to even incorporate into this hopeful anthology for this TV series.
Agreed.
I'm so hopeful because they've got the movie, the remake that they're working on, but then there's also the HBO TV series, and that's the one where I hope they take this approach.
Yep.
I really
Well,
do.
especially the HBO behind it.
Yeah.
You can do the dirty stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sister, I don't know if it's Sister Silas or Sister Solis. Probably Sister Solis when I
Yeah,
think
but-
about it.
yeah.
But I think that
Tomato,
would be a
tomato.
great story for an HBO
That actually
anthology.
would be.
Yeah, I think a few of these, the ones that we have praised the most, could all function in that sort of form. I mean, like a 30 to 40 minute anthology installment.
Which
Twilight
brings
Zone
us to the
style.
last two. However, by Gary A. Braunbeck and Lucy A. Snyder.
Yeah.
This one.
This was the one where there's the kids who have been kidnapped and these cold ones have been torturing them for a number of years.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
the group of victims tied up in the basement from like some. I got the impression it was like, what if the victims of the Hicks from Wrong Turn found a lament configuration and tried to free themselves using it.
I thought the twist very similar to the one where the girl kind of falls in love with the Cenobite and the husband comes to rescue. This had a similar twist to it of where they're like, we're just gonna leave you here because like these people have done nothing beyond what we could do kind of ourselves without spoiling it.
But that's not quite how it ends, though.
Not quite. Yeah, exactly. Because the title is, however, that's the final word in the story. So, yeah.
And that leads us to the final one, Tis Pity He's Ashore.
I didn't like this one very much.
Brenchley, I didn't either. I didn't even follow it very much. There were a couple of stories where, again, story number 2, and then this story where I thought I was following it, and then a page turned, and I felt like I was reading a completely different story. So I kind of gave up on it. So I'll let you tackle this.
Yeah, man, this is one where a seasoned sailor, basically, he's in China, and he has to kind of bunker down. China. Sorry. Yeah. He has to bunker down for the night because of the fact that, there's this storm coming in, and so he can't get this yacht to the people that he's supposed to, like, sail it out to. And there's basically, like, this male prostitute that comes to hang out with him and eat dinner and, bang and all that other stuff. And yet he had been given a compass box by this guy Johnny, who runs a store right there on the shorefront, and his escort, companion, whatever you want to call it, starts playing with it and disappears, and it's about the ensuing investigation afterwards, like where did this person go? And that's about it. I mean, it was really by the numbers, and I don't know. To end on this story, I was like, well, that's kind of anticlimactic and boring. You should have ended with one of the strongest stories instead of with this one, but whatever. What are you going to do? You got Doug Bradley doing it afterwards, so there you are.
So that's going to do it. That covers all the stories. And again, the last part of this is the writing varies so vastly from story to story to story that that's why we kind of had to critique them story at a time.
And there's some writing in here that's really wooden and doesn't flow. Like there were some pages where I normally read like maybe a page every minute or two, but there were a few where it was like 4 to 5 minutes. I'm like, oh, this language. But yet others, especially the more dialogue-driven passages, I think those flowed very well, and I could cruise through a page in 30 seconds to a minute in those because of the fact that the writing just flow is the word that I have to continue.
This is definitely one of the harder anthologies to get through.
Yeah. So that's going to do it, guys. That covers the first of the books in the Hellraiser series we're going to cover. Stay tuned tomorrow. You will see the review of the Scarlet Gospels. Yeah. And then after that will be the review of Sherlock. Yeah.
Which was written by Paul Kane, one of the editors of this book.
I believe technically we're about to record a review that went up yesterday for the Hellraiser Masterpieces comics. So yes, stay tuned, or go back and check that out. Stay tuned for the other novel reviews going forward. But that's going to do it for this one. Thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel. Thank you to you guys for watching the review. If you enjoyed it, click the like button and subscribe so you don't miss the other reviews in our Christmas to Hell series. And then on Christmas Day, you will see our tier list ranking of the Hellraiser movies. And then on that Sunday, you will see the tier list ranking of all of these books.
That's a Christmas palate cleanser if I've ever heard of one.
Indeed. Stay tuned for all of that goodness, you guys. Until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
Gracias, Jaime. Fuego
Robert.
And remember, stay scared.